Good evening, Miami. Good evening, NBA Nation, Heat fans, Magic fans, if you're listening to us as well. Welcome to another episode on Fast Break. Back to our original start time and date, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. You can find us here on the Fins Talk Sports Network. Remember to like, subscribe. We also have No Host Bar coming up right after us at 9, talking wrestling, fun, cool guys. But first and foremost, I want to welcome my man, like always, the voice of God, Clutch. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, man? Everything's good.
Good times. I know, for example, we have loaded up in the show today. We're going to talk about Paolo Banchero and what the Magic are doing, their core. Also, a few rumors in regards to a possible trade involving Randall. I don't think there's much traction to it, and especially not after what we're seeing right now. I'm not seeing the game, but Clutch is seeing it, so I'm going to get his feedback. First and foremost, I've been the biggest advocate for starting Jovic next to Bam. I do believe that is going to be the starting unit going forward. Probably not right now, but possibly down the season. You kind of see the possibilities, what it could do. Clutch, you've been watching him play. What is your first impression of what you've seen? Ball movement, defense. Tell me everything in detail.
He's playing so I like how he's playing. He's all over the floor. He's offensively. He scored like 11 points in the first 6 minutes, and he was just screening, rolling all around, moving. He moves really well on offense. On
Yes.
defense, he still gets taken advantage of a little bit. They try to push him around and work, but they're trying to, and he maybe needs a little bit more work on the defensive end, but on offense, he's polished, man. He can do the stuff.
And when you say that, it's a known fact, especially very rarely is a rookie prepared defensively to go full force, obviously with the strength of an NBA player, especially at the 5 and the 4, like he's playing. But just his overall knowledge of the game, the way he's picked up things, and just his attitude, you see him ready. And also, I don't want to take away from Jamal Cain. I see good, big things when Jamal Cain, especially this season as possible role player. I understand Kane obviously is on a two-way deal, so you can transfer over his deal to a standard contract down the line. But these are situations that just frees up your team. And what I see is the logjam at the starting unit that we've talked about many shows, for many shows actually, in regards to having kind of spreading out the Martin and Butler minutes. Not that they don't play well together, but Martin could be maximized relieving Jimmy Butler off the bench and kind of having like a natural four, a scorer spreading the floor. I was a big fan of starting Strus in place of Martin. But if you can slide Jovic in and you still keep that Strus off the bench intact with a Martin, with a possible Robbins if he's not moved. Obviously, was looking forward to Omer. We find out Omer is out for the most likely for the season. There's a slim chance that he could play. Might be beneficial for us down the line. We might be able to resign him for cheap for the following year. But it's hard. It's a heartbreak, just as Oladipo's situation as well, because it's out of your control. And those are people that you were counting on. It's probably Oladipo a little bit more than Omer, but I saw a lot of good combinations. Everything that Denman is doing, I kind of saw Omer coming off, even possibly playing Bam minutes. But sometimes situations happen, and I wanna take it there. Unfortunately, during the course of the season, until something happens, you don't really notice what you have. You know what you have, but you don't know how well it might work or how it might gel unless you're forced to throw everything into the fire. So, for you, Clutch, that you've seen it, I understand he hasn't been playing next to Bam. He's going to be playing more freely. Do you see this as a possible situation in regards to Jovic staying there in that position as his role for this team, where he's protected defensively by Butler, by Bam, so he's not out there on an island on his own? Do you see that it's his best situation, or what role do you feel that he can have this year?
I definitely could see him next to Bam. The way he's playing right now, just solely off of that, I
Yeah.
could see him playing with next to Bam and fitting in seamlessly. Because I mean, he's just been really solid, and there's really not much else to like criticize him about because he's been all over the like I said all over the place, and like kind of like you said about you get to find out what you have because of certain circumstances. Like you kind of like these games where your star player isn't playing and you have to
Mhm.
play some of the guys that don't play, and you get this, and it's really good, and you don't know the next thing and we're figuring out these last few games how we're able to win games without the scoring punch that Tyler Hero gives you,
Yes,
and
very important.
without Victor Oladipo that we saw last season.
Very important.
So, and I mean, it's early, and this is my overreaction, I guess, of the early season. If you're seeing what you can do without Tyler Hero, maybe to go and get that big fish. Who knows? But they've been looking really good lately.
Yeah, and also because last year, for example, we tend to rely on Hero to save you and be your like your fourth quarter offensive production. Bam's, for example, I forgot what I was reading. Like they're talking about Bam's turnover. Bam sometimes is being forced, and I don't want Bam to play that way. That is one thing that I was always worried about this offseason when they started talking about Bam being more aggressive. What I kept thinking to myself was like, I want him to be aggressive, not controlled aggression, but I want him to be a natural aggressor. Bam is not. It might not be a killer like a Jimmy is, like Iverson was. Something of that sort. That's the mentality what I'm talking about. Bam is your overall best player. He really is. He's your most important player. But I want his aggression to come naturally, picking his spots, be a cerebral player. So it's a given. The turnovers are going to be up. The assists are going to be down. Why? Because we're asking him to be a little bit more aggressive. That will also find this balance. Kind of like everything in the NBA finds its balance. Jazz have lost a couple of games. Rookies are going to struggle. Shooters are going to struggle. It's a long season. So you mentioned a point, and I think it hits the nail right on the head. When you have versatility, the first couple of games, it takes a while to figure out, especially if there's injuries. It takes a while to figure out how you're going to deploy that versatility at what times of the game. What's going to be your closing lineup? One thing that continues to happen, we're learning how to make up and come back from losing leads. Eventually, that's going to lead to the point where you figure out how not to lose a lead, which most likely is just stepping up your defensive game. They keep playing that little soft switch. I don't like when they switch that off in the last. I don't understand why you play a certain style of basketball for 3.5 quarters, and I understand the game is going to slow down, but the last 3 or 4 minutes you become a different team when you start doing that. And basketball, if there's one game that is just a change of motion, where it's just you're riding the wave and all of a sudden there's a 4, 5, 6 point swing, it's basketball. The games can change, especially now with long range shooting. The games can change in less than 30 seconds. And a 9 point lead can become extinct in a matter of a minute. So I like struggling now. I prefer to struggle now. And the casual fan is going to continue to question. And I'm not trying to be a homer here. I'm really not. One of the topics that we talked about, there was a rumor about the Heat possibly acquiring Julius Randle. They continue with the stretch fours. I understand the holes that people see in this team. One thing that I do, obviously, in hindsight, we were still being open to the possibility of acquiring Durant. I'm not saying Durant won't become available because the situation in Brooklyn is turning a little bit. There's gonna be a lot of people hurt in the next few weeks. I don't care what happens with Kyrie. Some of the comments that Kevin said, obviously, you can tell is the cultural situation when it came to Steve Nash and practices and the people he surround. I think he has a solid squad around him. Ben Simmons is not as aggressive as you would hope. Is not panning out as you would hope. So it looks a little bleak there. But the Julius Randle situation when it came up this week, the possibility of acquiring him, and obviously the casual fan just hears Julius Randle. I think if we acquire Julius Randle, we take a huge step, a defensive lap, because he becomes a body. I prefer to have Jovic over Randle, and people might call me crazy. I just see the situation as you are trading for a player whose salary is sky through the sky. So obviously you have to include Duncan, you have to include Dedmon. Not saying it's not a possibility, but I wouldn't want to acquire Randall if I could have acquired Jeremy Grant. And that's the only one this offseason, people. The only regret I have this offseason, with the Durant situation, is that we possibly could have acquired Jeremy Grant because we would have given up that compensation. And he's playing sensational in Portland, and he fits right in. So I'll get your take. I know you've heard the rumors of Randall. Contract wise, it ties you up. I believe his contract is for 2 more years after this one, or I don't know. I don't think it was 3 or maybe it's 2 years. So that ties you there, and we have cap numbers to worry about next year. So what is your take on that Randall situation?
I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate the talks. I hate that it's a conversation. I
That was
hate
so natural.
everything
That came
about
from
it
your soul,
because
man.
I, because of the first thing, like the first reason is just because I hate him and I've been shit talking him
Oh,
for
you
years.
just hate him personally. Okay,
And
okay.
I think I justifiably talk shit to him because he's just not. Some of it was not his fault because of the New York media comparisons to Chris Bosh. So I just had to shit him for that every time he played a game. So it was mostly that, but I don't like his play style. I think he chucks the ball up a lot, and
Yeah.
maybe he had to because he plays in New York. But I think he's a defensive liability. Every time they played the Heat, from what I remember, Bam was cooking him. He was
Oh, yeah.
getting cooked, and he was. I just don't see the deal in Julius Randle.
The defensive lapses are too. I understand he's a gifted offensive player. He's kind of like a tweener between the old school power forward, but he still has range because he shoots for three. But to me, it doesn't justify. It doesn't push the needle at all, in my opinion. For the same reason, I don't want to acquire Jay Crowder because I feel it's going to clog what we're trying to do right now. Like I said, I really like these struggles because it starts unlocking certain gems that you have in your roster, certain combinations that you can get through. Realistically, you can't ask Caleb Martin to play the four all year. You can't ask Max Strus to play the four. I understand you're gonna sometimes shift Jimmy to the four, play your 2-3 shooters, but you have the Jovic minutes right now that you see, and then as a coach, and Spo to me is
Holy
one of the.
crap! Struce is closer to somebody.
Are you serious?
I'm
What
sorry,
you
I'm
just
getting
dunked on him?
distracted.
Hey, that's cool. That's cool, bro. I wish I was watching the
Yeah,
game. Who did he dunk on?
one of the big guys. So I think it was. I don't know if it was Boucher
Oh,
or I forgot his.
it's
The guy
funny.
that he
What?
fought the Caleb Martin fought the other time.
Oh, okay, okay. When you just said that poster, that's one. What catchphrase are kids using now? Like I remember, for example, I'm just gonna segue there. When we were playing ball and I was 14, 15, it was that's a cag. Like if you make a shot that's not supposed to go in, it's like how the hell did you make that? Like you put it out of your ass. It's like, oh, what a cag. Poster is because you were gonna end up on a poster. Now do kids like do like youngins say like, oh, you're mean. You're gonna be a mean now. Like what's the go-to in basketball that you hear, Clutch? Because I don't hear. I mean, obviously I play with older guys. I don't play with young kids. So
For me, it's always been poster, man. Just all the time.
poster,
It's
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 classic,
all
right?
about the poster. Like,
Post. Oh
yeah,
man.
the meme thing. I think I'm young. I'm not that old,
Whoa, whoa,
but
whoa, whoa.
yeah,
The
like I
tone,
think
the tone,
the
Clutch, the tone.
I'm still in like the poster era.
You're okay. You're still okay. You see that I will call you an old basketball soul. You're an old soul in basketball years. Um, but I don't know, man. But
I
back to
like that.
that. Sometimes the trades, people continue to talk about trades and they want to see movement. Do I think they're possibly showcasing Duncan Robinson, playing him as it could be, but I honestly think that the steps that he's taken, he's playing basketball again. He's playing free. He's just balling out there. He's reading and reacting. When Duncan wouldn't put the ball on the floor and do that little dribble penetration and that little floater, it took away so much because teams would just close out on him because they knew all he was going to do was shoot or pass. Now the threat of holy shit, he's going to drive. He's either going to kick it or he's going to float it. It gives him that extra second, that extra millisecond that he needs just to ignite. Same thing with Strus. Strus is a more athletic version. I love the nucleus of this team. The struggles didn't scare me because when you're coaching and when you're coaching a young team or when you're coaching a team that has moving pieces, you kind of have to figure it out on the go. You can practice all you want. You can scrimmage all you want. Game speed, live action is a different ball game because you're playing. The people are going to attack your weaknesses, and that is when your core is at its strongest when it's protecting each other's weaknesses. So I like the team that we have. I'm not saying Riley, Ellisberg, Simon won't move certain pieces if the right player becomes available, But I don't think they're in desperation mode. I don't think they're going to acquire someone just to acquire. That's not. You can't do a lateral move. You got to do a move thinking in the forefront. That's why. And I want to notate this. This organization knows is going to be a tax team in the next couple of years. We are going to be in the tax. We're going to be in the luxury tax. If this is a winning roster, they will go into the tax. That's why they're trying not to go over the tax this year. They could sign a 15th player. I think it's like 15 games left in the season or 10 games. You can sign a player there, and it doesn't kind of. It won't. You won't go over the cap. You won't get penalized. You don't waste a year if you can. If you can maximize this roster, you don't waste a year of being in the tax due to the repeater tax situation. Obviously, with a new CBA, that might change, but whatever. You're still set up for years to come. You work around the cap next year. Lowry might be around. Lowry might not be around. I like this is something that we talked before the show started. I do like the fact that Lowry is getting more comfortable. He's accepting his role and he's excelling. I've always felt that he knew his role, and part of his role was to get people in their roles. And I want to see when Tyler comes back, the chemistry they have, because Lowry becomes now kind of more of a spot-up shooter. He's going to play more off the ball. He's going to start setting screens, things that you kind of see the guard screens that Brady Hawk from 5 Reasons always breaks down, and it's amazing because he always pinpoints what the casual fan doesn't see. And those guard screens are one of their go-to offenses in late and fourth quarters when they're trying to recoup the lead. And it just creates so many mismatches, especially for Bam. Even defensively, now they're holding accountable. They're making people shoot a low percentage shot. And that's what I love about Spo and this coaching staff. They always find ways around maximizing their talent, maximizing what they have. So for me, I'm going to agree with you. It's a no in the Randall trade. I don't really see anything else materializing. I want to see now, once you play Jovic, I'm not going to go crazy and say it's going to happen next game. But I do believe that it's in the back of their mind, and they want to give it a few games to see maybe him bringing him off the bench, rotating with Bam, maybe 5 minutes next to each other, 6 minutes to see how it goes. Because if you have a winning formula, they're very difficult to defend. And when you have an extra shooter there in Jovic and an extra ball creator, because Martin's athletic, Martin doesn't create his own shot. Martin read and reacts. He's a lot of cuts, a lot of flares. So I understand that part. But Jovic can create a shot. Jovic could run your offense if he wanted to. So that just frees up Bam even more. So on my forefront clutch, it's a no for me or Randall. Before we go to our next topic, now I leave it still early. I do want to go anything that surprised you around the NBA this week, Clutch. Anything that's come up, anything that you've seen. The Jazz are kind of going back in place. They've lost a couple games. They're falling back to earth. Cavs lost a couple games. Celtics, surprisingly, I'm really surprised. They're playing great ball, great team ball. Their offensive numbers are off the charts. When they get Robin Williams, that defense is going to improve as well. Philadelphia is kind of figuring it out. Nets are trickling down the wrong direction. But what has surprised you? What situations do you see around the NBA?
Yeah, the one that surprised me the most, I think you said it, because of the Celtics. They survived the storm that was Ime Udoka, the whole scandal and situation. They survived that, and they came out of the other side looking really good with their new coach. They're still very talented, and they're just a good team. I guess it doesn't matter who's coaching them; they're just good, and that kind of sucks for me because I hate Boston, but that's not here nor there. Um, but yeah, like a surprising team. Like I don't really have a surprise team for me. I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised that I was right that the Nets would do better without Irving. I'm surprised that I was actually right on that because
You don't have that much confidence in
yeah,
yourself,
I
man.
mean they're still not good. They're doing
Yeah, they're
better.
not.
They're doing better without Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, they're just stuck with Ben Simmons, man. Like right now, that organization. If I'm the owner of the organization, I'm just looking at my roster. Before I acquired Durant, I had Russell, I had Levert, I had a young nucleus that looked entertaining, looked exciting. You understand? You trade Russell to acquire Durant. Cool. Even when you acquire Durant and you sign Kyrie, you still have Levert, you still have Allen. Once they traded for Harden, that fucked up their. I understood what they were trying to do, and once again, this is what's crazy about this, and it happened to us last year. The Nets were 2 inches away from going to the finals. If KD doesn't step on the line, and that's a three, they're going to the finals. That removes the Bucks from a championship. That probably propels the Nets into a championship. It's insane how situations like that literally is a game of inches, a make or miss league. It can alter your franchise forever because you're not guaranteed. That's when people. That's why the struggle is so hard. When we were 3 seconds away, a 3-pointer away last year, there's nothing that guarantees you that you're going to be there next year. Nothing, because injuries can happen, retirements, people stepping up, improving, people exceeding expectations. Everything can happen, and it changes your perspective a lot. And that's one of the reasons I love the game of basketball, because you understand the team concept, but individual accolades sometimes motivate players. I understand that. Personal situations have to be taken into account in athletic achievements and athletic interactions. The whole situation with Kyrie, that's something that was a personal perspective of his, and it affected his team, or positively gave the organization some insight like, we don't really need Kyrie. We can start moving him. Let's maybe see if Ben plays. But you see, do you think Ben has taken advantage of that opportunity, bro? Because I feel he's regressed. With Kyrie being out,
Oh
I
no,
figure Ben,
he still looks lazy.
he lays right. He's not showing any. He doesn't have the desire to play. That's what it looks like to me. Like he's just there, like just going through the motions, getting paid and going through the motions. Which I don't know, man. That's one thing that bothers me about certain athletes. I don't want to get into personal situations or mental health because obviously I respect those things. But there's a lot of athletes that I've always asked myself, if you weren't gifted these athletic blessings that you have with size, talent, would they actually play basketball? Or like is it just a measure, a mean of a business? Like when you work, like people working their 9 to 5. This is Ben Simmons 9 to 5. Yeah, it makes ends meet. It pays the bills. That's the attitude that he has. And that's the difference between a champion and just a regular rotational player that's never going to max out anything. And then you have the undrafted free agents that max out. They're like a sponge. They're just extracting everything that they can. Extract everything that you can. Every little ounce of energy, every little ounce of talent. And they break it out. And they usually happen in Heat organization. Because one oh man, remember we talked about Clutch last week about if you can name me a role player or a developmental player that improved once he left the Heat. Hear me? I
Yeah.
think we might be having technical difficulties. Yeah, we're on a delay. My bad. If you don't hear me, Clutch, it's probably me. I'm on a delay. I know my laptop is acting up. Um, One of the things that I noticed, even we talked about Kendrick Nunn last week, the disappearance of, if you're not in a system, if you're not in a proper system, there's some players that don't achieve anything else. It's kind of like in football when they start talking about the quarterback. Oh, he's a systems quarterback. There's some players, some NBA players that are system players. You got specialists, you got some shooters, you got defenders, you know your roles. But then there's other players that don't add anything else to your team. They don't add anything else to their game. And some organizations max you out, get you paid, but then you fall flat on your ass again and fall back to earth. So with that, I'll segue. One of the most exciting teams that I've seen this year is the Orlando Magic. Orlando hasn't followed the common blueprint that most teams have followed in the NBA right now. They're going for now, because obviously this could change. But for now, they're going for the freak with wingspan, athletic guard, small forward, power forward that can shoot, defend, and they're athletic. I was looking at the roster. They have their core players are all under 23, 22. You got Wendell Carter as your veteran, and he's 25. Oh, they got Ross. I still think they have Terrence Ross, yes. So from afar, Clutch, what is the one thing, and I know we'll talk about Banchero, but overall, that roster, what excites you when you see them? Have you seen one of their games?
Not but I do keep up with everything they talk about on
Okay,
Twitter. And the most surprising thing about me is Heat legend Mo Bamba, how he's
Mo
really
Mamba.
resurrected his career there.
That's and you know what's funny? We could out of all the people that are going to be moved, they still. I don't think Jonathan Isaac has he played. I think he has. But you're talking about possibly Mo Bamba being moved, Jonathan Isaac. They can they can acquire a disgruntled superstar if they wanted to because they have the cap space and they have the pieces necessary to orchestrate such deal with talent, actual rotational talent, draft pick capital. You basically traded Vucevic for Carter, first round picks, equal talent in return, and you have your build for future. You got probably your core realistically of everyone there. You got Cole Anthony, you got Banchero, and you have what's this other kid? You got Suggs as your two, and those are your two, and you're 6'5" already in those twos. And then you got Wagner. That's your core pieces, really. Those are probably your untradables. You can start swapping out Isaac, Mamba, even a Carter. You can move. You can acquire a decent superstar because Orlando's not that big of a market. You have acquired before Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill. That was a free agency coup of 99 and obviously went downhill, no pun intended, when Hill got hurt, ankle infection, almost had to retire. His life was in danger. So those are teams that is Orlando a small market team? Yeah. Do they have any national attention? No. When they had Dwight Howard, obviously when you had Shaq, Penny. So those are the teams that kind of have to do what Cleveland did and acquire a star player with guaranteed money, with guaranteed deals, 3 or 4 years locked in, because you know you're not going to lose them. So you can even trade for Kevin Durant, realistically, if you wanted to, because you got pieces that the Nets will take right now. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just throwing a scenario out there. Bradley Beal, you can acquire Bradley Beal. You can acquire SGA from OKC. Probably Toronto will make a move for him. So those are things that you see, and I want to talk about Banchero because I haven't seen. I know when Bayama Victor is the next big thing, and he's coming next year. But out of a first overall pick, aside from LeBron, and I would even argue to say that Paolo Banchero is more polished than the LeBron when LeBron came out. But obviously, LeBron is a generational talent. So, what have you seen in this game that has transitioned into the NBA so easily? It was just a smooth transition. Obviously, it helps when you have a young team and you're getting playing time because you're going to make mistakes on the run and you're going to learn on the run. But what has impressed you the most when you've seen in Banchero?
That from day one, he's been a grown man from day one. He's strong. He has the NBA body already. Once you have that, you're pretty
Yeah,
much set. It, like dude already bodying people, doing all the stuff that you don't usually see from rookies. You see Jovic, who is just very, very skinny and not grown into
yeah,
his body yet. And then you see Banchero, who's built like a tank, and he's doing
yeah.
all these things. I think he's fantastic.
And once again, you have your motto when in the future of the NBA. Right now, it's funny because we talked about this offseason, the Heat being this being a bridge year from the Butler era really to the Bam and Hero with maybe Jovic era. So you kind of see still in your prime because Jimmy's still in his prime years, but obviously Lowry's in his downside. So you kind of see the transition of this team where the nucleus is going. We as the NBA, we are coming to the point where we're swapping out generational talent because when the next 2 to 3 years, most likely, you see the end run of the Warriors as they're presently constructed with Curry, Green, Thompson. You're going to see LeBron James retirement. You're going to see a whole situation where the NBA's landscape is changing over into the hands of you still have your transition with Jovic, with the Joker, with Doncic, with Giannis, but now you have more inflection of talent where Giannis is already, I think he's already a 10-year vet or like a 9-year vet. That's insane to me. And he's still in his prime.
It's crazy, right?
But it's insane. Whenever you hear a player say that, I just heard, oh my God, who was it the other time? That was, even with Hero. This is Hero's fourth year, and he's 22 or 23. So those are the things. Those are the things that when you actually let it soak in, and you realize that these players are in their primes, but there's more inflection of talent. I think I haven't seen the NBA this talented in a few years. Like there is so much parity across the league, which is fun and entertaining. I genuinely believe that. I'm a big fan of having cap sports because it does even out the playing field, and I think it creates competition. I understand you have the freedom to choose where you want to sign. You have the freedom to create super teams. That's cool, but it does give you the opportunity to have parity around the league, competitive games. You're not blowing out and not repeat champions. If you notice, we talked about it last time. There's really no clear cut aside from the Bucks, and the Celtics are a strong powerhouse. There's a lot of teams that are in the cusp, and they're going to be pushing for playoffs. They're going to be pushing for championships at the end of the year. But you don't really have a clear cut favorite. And there's so much developmental talent right now that you're seeing games and you're seeing personnels move. Obviously, the whole league is still waiting for Los Angeles to make a trade, and they will make a trade. They have no other option. Or you can be patient. Honestly, if I'm Palenka, I might wait it out. You have the situation. Denver, they're starting to play well again. You're getting Jamal Murray. You got Jamal Murray back, Porter Jr. back. Minnesota, remember we talked about Minnesota. There's a clog situation there, and I don't think it's going to improve before the end of the year. Anthony Edwards is picking it up, but they have to swap out somebody in Minnesota, man. I don't think D'Angelo Russell ends the season there.
Oh yeah, definitely, he's gone.
Memphis is on the climb. John Moran is insane. And it's funny though, when you play well, and I did hear what Chuck said yesterday, Charles Barkley, when he talked about that John Moran's next step is making his teammates better. I don't think it's a fair criticism, but I also take it with a grain of salt because when you're that talented and you are the center of attention, his athleticism just jumps off the board. Like he doesn't try to be athletic. He's just athletic. He doesn't try to be the best athlete on the floor. He is just the best athlete on the floor. So sometimes people see that and they don't tie it with team success. And even Desmond Bane is out now. He's out possibly 2 to 3 weeks. So now you got John Moran stepping up, and you need more from him. So this league is in good hands, and I'm excited because I've always seen the NBA obviously in eras, and then you kind of went from the Jordan eras into the Shaq and Kobe, and while Shaq and Kobe were dominating, LeBron came in, LeBron and Wade, we were dominating. The Warriors were stepping up, and then the Warriors took over. Those. I love that the NBA transitions their talent, and there's always an influx. And now, which we could do an episode on that, is the international talent. It's truly a global game, and there's so much international prospects that are obviously your ultimate goal is to be an NBA player. It's changed the game. Even us with Jovic, it changes the game. It changes the way you play. It changes the dynamic of your teams. So I'm excited for what's coming. I love what the Magic are doing. I believe there's a few moves that they'll make possibly in the offseason and the next season because you can tell these are baby steps. You're building a team for the long haul. Intriguing tops, and we could do this. This is out of left field. Which team? Okay, surprising trade that comes from an East team. Out of the top of your head. A surprising trade that changes the outlook of an Eastern Conference team. Just a bigger shakeup.
Like like a Eastern Conference team receive somebody, or they trade somebody away.
Or trade, whatever. Receive or trade away. It changes their outlook. It changes their roster completely.
SGA to Toronto.
Holy shit.
That off the top, but that's
That's
not
a
so
good one.
surprising. But
that's a good one.
Comes to my head.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's what I was thinking because The Durant. I'm going to ask you that, Clip. Do you think
because
Durant
they're
gets
already
traded
set with the
in
bigger
season?
guys, with Pascal and with
Oh yeah,
the
they're
other
fine.
guys.
They're fine. But now one of them probably has to be moved because they're going to ask for Scotty Barnes. Now, do you trade Scotty for SGA?
Probably not.
If then you got to trade OG. If you don't trade Scotty, you have to trade OG if you want
Yeah,
SGA.
OG's the one. OG's the one.
Man, and okay. Do you think next question, rapid fire? Do you think Durant gets traded in season?
No,
No. Okay. Ben Simmons.
no, no. I think
No.
he committed and off season. Ben Simmons
Off
neither.
season.
It's the same thing with Durant. They already committed to him. They're not gonna accept that they're wrong. So they're
Uh
gonna
huh.
let the season play out, and then maybe in the off season.
Jesus, bro. Another year of Durant Wade. I will be intrigued if the Heat circle around. If the Heat circle around to that, because once that became public today, what he said in regards to like look at my roster, like what do you expect? Once you hear that, you're like, as a team, you're like, dog, you don't got to dog me like that. Like, I understand what you're trying to say, and I love when the moment he said it as part of the course, like, I mean no disrespect, because he knew exactly what he was saying. It's like, look, who am I playing with? What do you expect? Want me to save the day? I'm 34, 35 years old, man. Like, it's just, I'm telling you, gone are the days. If you noticed it, gone are the days. Well, it happens to older players because you still got Doncic carrying his team. But gone are the days that one superstar can carry your team the whole season. Like, realistically, it's never genuinely happened because no superstar just carries. Maybe you can argue Iverson with the Sixers, because Jordan had Pippen, Jordan had Harper, Jordan had always had a nucleus. Obviously, he's Michael Jordan, stratosphere, different player. But Shaq always had Kobe or Penny or Wade. So there's superstars play with superstars. Um, I'm just intrigued the landscape of. I'm surprised, not surprised by the Sixers' struggles. I'm not surprised. I'll stick in the East. I am surprised, and I was wrong. The Hawks look like a nice fit. Young and Murray are playing well off each other. Did that surprise you? Did you expect that?
The I kind of surprised because I thought two ball dominant guys weren't gonna mesh
Right?
well, but I guess it works. If it works, I
Hey,
guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're
don't
good.
fix it, and they're making it work, man. John Collins is still there. It's always exciting. It's always exciting when trade deadline comes around, but that's in February, so we still got a long season, man. This just started. Um, I want to see what we do with our rotations. I want to see what we do with our sub patterns here in Miami, and let's see what the season brings. Let's see any surprise move that it brings. And I want to see honestly what happens when he comes back, because he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back, and um, I don't know. I don't know. They might be able to turn the season around. They might be. They'll find. They have a good nucleus. It's just Ben Simmons is kind of like your wild card out because you have a good nucleus if you play the right way. And Jack Vaughn, they believe in Jack Vaughn. So we'll see what it brings. But we're at the 40-minute mark. We're going to make it quick so all my Heat fans can go back to watching the game. I know Clutch wants to finish their games. Don't forget, we got No Holds Bar coming up at 9. Fresh new episode like always. Thank you so much for listening, tuning in with us. And my apologies for any audio difficulties or technical difficulties, any lagging that you've seen. That's probably on my end. But Clutch, before we go, any final words, man?
No, man. Pretty much. I just want to correct something because earlier when we
Yeah,
were
yeah.
talking about the Orlando Magic, we were talking. I said Mo Bamba when I was trying to say Bol Bol the whole time, and I feel like a complete idiot. That's all I have to say. I can
That's all
go
you have to
home. I
say.
can just go away now.
Hey, and we forgot to mention Bobo. That's your 7-1 point guard. You can play him at
That's
the
that's
point.
what I was trying to get the whole
Yeah.
conversation about. My dumb ass said Mo Bamba.
And I just play it off. I'm like, all right. When it's funny
Yeah,
when
that's
you
why I
say
said
that.
Heat. I
When
said Heat legend
he
Mo
legend,
Bamba,
he
but it's
legend. I'm
Heat
like
legend
Mo
Bo
Bamba,
Bo.
and I'm like, okay, maybe he's talking about the trade rumors that we were gonna try to acquire him this offseason, blah blah blah. But there you go. It makes sense. You see, it
No,
correct.
man,
It
I'm
makes
just
things
ready to
happen.
go away now. I feel like an idiot.
All right, bro. Love you. Miami, have a good night. Enjoy the Heat game. Hopefully, we'll pull out a win and some more Jovic minutes and Kane. The Jovic King. Good night, guys.